This is a lecture from Open Tuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
This chapter looks at motivation. Motivation can be described as the urge to take action to achieve or avoid something. So it could be motivation to win a contract, it could be motivation to hit a certain output, it could be motivation to hit a deadline. Managers need to understand what will motivate their staff, because very often, of course, you do want to achieve these targets. And someone once described motivation as the urge to run towards the target rather than simply amble towards the target in a kind of slow and relaxed way. And a motivated workforce is more likely to achieve the targets that have been set by the organization than an unmotivated workforce, where the people really don't care whether they hit the targets or not. There are two theories of motivation. First, or two classes of theory of motivation. The first is content theory, and this looks at maybe what content within the job is going to motivate employees to perform their job and the tasks to the very best of their ability. And secondly, there is what's known as the process theory of motivation. And this kind of, maybe not very well expressed, how can managers get the most out of their staff? It is more to do with the process through which staff members become motivated, always getting to the psychological process that enables staff members to be, if you like, switched on. Now, the earliest theory probably of motivation was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, coming in about the 1950s. Maslow did his work observing the behavior of chimpanzees in the Bronx Zoo. So we have to worry, a little bit about to what extent the behavior of chimpanzees is going to be applicable to the behavior of people. But it's a very famous theory. There are probably some elements of truth within it, but there are certainly some problems within it. And the way the theory works is, he says, if you had nothing, if you're absolutely destitute and poor, then what will motivate you is fulfilling your need for physiological requirements like shelter, food, heat, clothing. So any activity, whether in work or outside work, but any activity which enables you to buy food, buy shelter, pay the rent if you like, pay the electricity bill, clothe yourself reasonably, this is going to motivate you, because these are what's going to be absolutely dominating your thought process. Once people have got these basic physiological, almost physical needs out of the way, the second thing they will want are safety needs. So you have the job, but is the job secure? You have the apartment, but is it secure, or could I be thrown out of the apartment within 2 weeks? Something of that type. I have the job, but what happens if I'm ill? Is there any sick pay? So supplying these safety needs or elements of a job which supplies these safety needs is going to motivate people. And then he said we have social needs. Social needs, friendship, basically. So once we have physiological safety kind of taken care of, we turn out and we become social beings again. We want time, for example, to chat to individuals, or we want maybe to be working with people with whom we get on. Now, there are some jobs where fulfilling social needs is going to be very difficult. If you are in a factory and there's lots of noise around and you're stuck there doing your simple task over and over again, it can be very difficult to fulfill social needs within the work environment. But you've earned money, and maybe the money you have earned enables you to join a sports club or follow a football team, and that will give you an outlet for your social needs. So quite often money coming from the employment is transformed into something which can supply the higher order needs. Esteem needs, these are the needs for people to look up to you. It's easily supplied if your manager says, well done, that was a difficult task, but you did it really well. A promotion fulfills esteem needs. A title fulfills esteem needs. Again, not everyone can get this through work, but being looked up to by your family, or your friends, for example, who hold you in some esteem or regard, is going to be helpful. And finally, we have what's known as self-actualization needs, kind of the need that when you're lying on your deathbed, you look back and say, it's all been worthwhile, it hasn't been a waste of time. Some people can get self-actualization needs met through work. So perhaps a doctor will obviously find it, we hope, very fulfilling, very worthwhile to save lives, and will find it very motivating because of self-actualization. They feel this is a worthwhile thing to be doing. Other more mundane jobs, it's going to be very difficult to get your self-actualization needs met at work. But again, it's something which at work and the money involved in that you earn in work can allow you outside to perhaps enjoy self-actualization needs, perhaps through family life. We need to be ultimately thinking about those. Now, there's a number of problems with this model. What Maslow said is that we go up it in a very hierarchical form. He says, we do go up it like that. Once one need is met, it becomes not motivating anymore. So once you have enough money to live comfortably, he was kind of saying money is not going to be a motivator anymore. What you want now is free time to allow you to fulfill your social needs. And then once your social needs are kind of fulfilled, what you then need is kind of respect, I suppose, from your peers, esteem needs. Now, that may or may not be right. Not necessarily everybody puts the same importance in some of these needs here. Some people, and perhaps even some civilizations, if you want to put it like that, maybe put a greater importance on fulfilling social needs than they do on fulfilling, say, the ability to earn more money. Some people will put a lot of emphasis on feeling that what they're doing is worthwhile, and they may even prefer to work maybe to a kind of self-employment, a part-time job, where maybe the safety of employment isn't so great, but they feel that the flexibility they have in employment allows them to pursue their real interests outside employment. So not everybody necessarily follows this in the same way. Not everyone necessarily is going to be motivated by the same things. And also, he said, if you're going to understand what motivates people, you have to kind of judge where they are in this hierarchy. And that may alter. So if you're relatively young with a young family, you'd be pretty interested in providing security for them. If you're older, then you might be more interested in having free time, maybe to pursue holidays. So your emphasis changes away from safety needs more towards maybe self-actualization needs. So behavior responds to different needs. We're all individuals. We're all going to respond differently to this. Altruistic behavior, it doesn't necessarily explain why some people maybe instead of pursuing, let's say, more money or more free time, maybe volunteer to give up free time, maybe volunteer to work for free in some situations, and it may be something which is resting really on Western cultural values, the order in which Western culture places these needs. So it may therefore not be, internationally applicable without trouble. Herzberg produced what's sometimes called the two-factor theory. He was looking at hygiene factors and motivational factors. And he said the absence of a hygiene factor will cause dissatisfaction. What he was kind of saying on the hygiene factors here was things like basic pay. Enough pay to live on, enough pay to feel you're not being cheated. There's also kind of relationships at work. So if you do not get on with anyone at work, then this is going to be a big impediment to being motivated. It's the absence of a hygiene factor. Then they may be the physical conditions at work. So is it too noisy? Is it dusty? Is it too warm? So if there's a missing hygiene factor, if you're not getting enough pay, if you've got very poor relationships at work, if the conditions at work are atrocious, you'll just fixate on the absence of these hygiene factors, and nothing will motivate you. So first he said, managers must make sure that the hygiene factors are present. People are reasonably happy with what's going on. And then what you can do on top of that is to provide motivating factors. And motivating factors can be esteem, can be self-actualization, can be the feeling of growing and so on. To some extent, when we're back here in Maslow, these are lower order needs here. These are kind of hygiene. Whereas the higher order needs here, in terms of Herzberg, are more related to motivating. So first get the hygiene right, and then you can turn to actually motivating factors that may turn people on and get them to run towards a target. So a two-factor theory, first the hygiene, then the motivators. Both Herzberg and Maslow were using content, or produced content theories of motivation. The next one, Vroom, is a process theory of motivation and expectancy theory. Now, what we've got over here is the motivating force. How much you're going to be motivated in a particular situation. And Vroom said that this depends on two things. First of all, how much do you want the outcome? That's the valence. And secondly, your own personal assessment of how likely you are to achieve what you want. And then there's McGregor theory X and theory Y, and this is really very like Ashridge, I think. Ashridge, if you remember leadership, went tells, sells, consults, joins with. This is almost the two extremes there, theory X and theory Y. And these are really assumptions that managers make about the attitude of their employees. Theory X attitude here said really employees do not want to work. Theory Y said work was enjoyed. If you believe that your workforce hates work, you will believe that they try to skimp on it, they try to be lazy, they try to escape it, they will do it carelessly. And if you believe that about your workforce, you will watch them like a hawk, and you will be giving them orders. You'll be very, very strict indeed. You'll be very much the tell sort of person. Theory Y, where work is enjoyed, and it was once said that work is as natural as play. You believe that your workforce is turned on by work, wants to do well, wants to do things better, wants to learn, is really enthusiastic and so on. There the Theory Y manager will motivate their workforce best by being much more consultative. You don't have to watch them like a hawk. You don't have to control them minutely. They will do the right thing. All you have to do is to give them kind of stimulating opportunities. McGregor didn't say theory right and theory wrong, or theory nice and theory horrible. It was X and Y to be neutral. It was a form of contingency theory. He said, if you are in fact in charge of people who do not like work, who do not like the job, who are there on the sufferance simply because they have to earn the money to eat, then you will do better probably as a theory X type manager. Because if you become all kind of participative and relaxed with these people, they'll take you for a ride. If, however, you are dealing, let's say, with highly trained, highly motivated graduates and postgraduates and so on, who are very much self-starters, ambitious and so on, and you try to tell them minutely what to do, then they're not going to react very well to that at all. So what you need is a match between the workforce and what motivates them and the manager and how they manage or perhaps lead their workforce towards better things. A couple of definitions. Intrinsic rewards are rewards which come from within, a feeling of achievement, personal advancement, learning, a feeling of satisfaction, feeling it's all been worthwhile. Extrinsic rewards, extrinsic comes from outside. So it could be more money, it could be your manager saying well done, it could be a promotion. That is all extrinsic rewards. All you have to do is remember the difference. How do we increase motivation? The big suggestion is participation. A lot of good things come from participation. You are making the person feel special. Remember Elton Mayo's experiments in the form of management or leadership, which said that people are going to do better if you take an interest in them. So allowing people to participate, you are asking their opinion. They feel they are contributing towards achievement of the goals. They feel esteem needs as well. They feel flattered that you've asked their opinions. They feel self-actualization because if this works well, they feel they've done something which is worthwhile. Secondly, there is job design. Try to put in bits to the job which makes it a more motivating job. And strictly, or in theory, there are three methods of doing this. First of all, there is job enlargement, which probably isn't actually very effective. But if you were in a production line and you're producing cars, I'm going to attempt to draw a car now. It's either very old or very futuristic. And your job at the minute was putting on the front wheels, then job enlargement will be putting on the back wheels. So it's literally more of the same. It's what's called a horizontal change. There's no more skills involved in that, and it's probably not going to really motivate very much at all. It might keep you interested for about half a day. Job rotation. This is where maybe 1 week you're putting on the wheels, then the next week what you're doing is you're fitting the headlights, and then the third week you're putting on the window washers and wipers and so on there. Then you go back to the wheels and so on. You're moving around. It's still very much a horizontal move because it's all basic skills which have been happening here. It will relieve boredom a little bit, but is not likely to act as a long-term motivator. And finally, there is job enrichment. Job enrichment is a vertical. So this was horizontal, this is horizontal, this is vertical. And by vertical, we mean we're giving actually more responsibility to someone, really elevating the job somewhat. So this could be you're putting on the wheels, but what you're supposed to do as the car moves past you is to look at the paintwork, and if there's a flaw in the paintwork, you put a little kind of sticker on this here so that it's brought to somebody's attention to be polished out or repainted or whatever is required. Now you're using your judgment. Now you are responsible for an important element of quality control, and I think you might possibly see that you're going to get more job satisfaction from adding that task into that job than just simply putting on the wheels all the time. Yeah, there is a bit more feeling of I'm doing something more skilled, more worthwhile, I'm making a difference. What about pay as a motivator? Hertzberg, in his two-factor theory, hygiene and motivating, said initially that pay is a hygiene factor, that you need enough money to live on, otherwise you're going to be obsessed with making ends meet. Later on, he revamped the theory, and pay also came in as a motivator. And by and large, most people seem to be willing to respond to additional pay. Not everybody. Some people are not interested in more pay. They'd rather have the free time. What we need to think about here is how is pay determined, how we're going to measure performance, how is it going to be based on profit, is it going to be based on output. If you're part of a team and a group, how can we ascertain what your effort is as part of that group? What happens if there are 4 good people in a group and then the 5th one pulls them down? So it's not absolutely straightforward. And what do people want from pay? Why might they want more pay? If you've got enough money to live on, if you feel safe and secure, then what people will generally be doing from pay is feeding their social and ego needs. So they feed their social needs by joining a club, following a football team around. They can fulfill their ego needs by getting a flashy car, moving to a better house, and so on, maybe showing off to people within that. Pay as a motivator is not as simple as it might seem. For example, pay is often determined by what the business can actually afford. It is determined by market rates. And no matter how well people do, there is going to be a limit really on how much you can afford to pay them, or how much it is maybe wise to pay them for the sort of work they're actually doing.